Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Emma Williams. I'm happy to welcome you to today's Exago Support Lab. We're going to be talking about change reports today. First things first, if everybody can see my screen and hear me, sounds great. Okay, good. We have some returning experts here. So let's get started. Why might I use change reports? Well, change reports are a really handy functionality. They're used primarily to combine multiple reports into a single page document. Now, within that, there's a couple considerations as well as use cases that will lend themselves very well to a change report and use cases that might not. And we're going to discuss both today as well as walk through two different change report examples, one of which will use collation, the other of which will not. And I just want to make sure. Oh, my apologies, everybody. Let me just unshare and reshare, and then hopefully we'll get a screen share as well there. Let me know if everybody can see this now. Okay, good. Awesome. Thanks for letting me know, guys. Okay, great. So let's just start at the top here. Change reports have a couple different really good use cases. They have a couple of different ways of using them. We can bundle unrelated reports in a regular change report. That's going to be the normal way, if you will. But we can also use the collation feature, which is going to allow us to chain reports together that have a common sort using collation. Now, I'm going to walk through both of these examples today. The setup is virtually identical and also very simple in terms of the actual actions that you'll be performing. But there are considerations to keep in mind while designing them and maybe before designing the actual change report itself. So we're going to walk through both of those. But the other part that I'd like to touch on is, when is a change report really the best case scenario for me, and maybe when is it not? The first thing I want to touch on with regards to that is going to be the fact that change reports are really a great use case for emailing or scheduling reports. And there we go. So why might I schedule change reports? Why is scheduling the use case that we generally see the most, but also the best way to utilize this feature? Change reports are going to increase the processing time of a report. So if you do have a report with that you do intend to collate that has maybe a lot of charts or maps, images, things like that, the processing time of a change report is going to be increased from the original report. First, because we're not running to HTML. So if we're running to PDF, we might be converting those images over. Additionally, we're going to be executing each page when using collation as an individual report. Each page of each report is executed individually. So that's the first reason. The other two are kind of straightforward, right? So change reports are non-HTML, which means Excel, CSV, PDF, and RTF or Word are going to be our export types there. So those are the four that are available with the scheduling service of Exago as is. So it really just kind of makes sense. They work really well together. Additionally, rather than sending 5 emails with 5 different reports that I would like to maybe put in front of my colleague or my manager, I'm only going to send one. This is an added benefit because you're not driving your coworkers up a wall with a bunch of subsequent emails. They can just get one with all of the information in one place, and rather than having 5 reports open to look at and maybe compare data or view it all together, they have a single document. Okay. Why might I not use change reports? What's a use case that maybe I initially thought was a good one for a change report and it's really not? Well, very simple one. Your reports do need to share an export type. in order to use the change report functionality. This is simply logical, right? If we're going to choose an export type for our change report, all of our reports that are included in that chain need to share the export type, share at least one export type. This is generally a thing that you could probably fix, right? We can go in and simply allow additional export types on individual reports. But if there's maybe a reason that you had limited the export types to begin with, and that's not something you would like to undo, then maybe change reports is not the way to go here. Maybe you want to collate a certain set of reports, but they don't have a common sort on them. A great example here, maybe I have report A and report B. Report A is driven by a certain data object. We'll call it object A. Report B is driven by, again, a certain data object. We can call it object B. These may share a common field, say employee last name, but that field is coming from two different objects. So it could have common values. It could appear, for all intents and purposes, to be the same. But since it's coming from separate objects, I don't have the same sort column on both of my reports. From an end user perspective, right, this is an end user lab, so we're not talking from a technical perspective. We're not saying, what could I do to fix? What could you ask your administrator for? Well, maybe a view of the data that combines those two columns into one. Maybe a custom SQL object. If you're looking for something and this seems to be your use case and you'd like to collate your reports using change reports, but you can't, and this is the reason why, those are some questions you might bring to your administrator to allow you to create the reports with a common sort, that column from the same object, and subsequently collate them successfully. Maybe you're only going to be executing your reports to HTML, and these last two bullet points go hand in hand. The reason that you might be only executing your reports to HTML is likely to maintain that interactivity for your users or for yourself in viewing that report. If this is the case, it's likely that a dashboard is your best case scenario. If you're only going to be executing these this collection of reports, this list of reports, if you will, if you're only going to be executing them to HTML because a large part of the benefit there is the interactivity, charts, drill downs, all of Exago's reports, have some sort of interactivity component when run to HTML. So if this is the reason or part of the draw of having all of these reports in one place, a dashboard is likely the direction that you'll take here. Now, one of the use cases I'm going to outline today involves chaining together reports that are included on a dashboard with additional reports. This allows me to run the dashboard and maintain all of that interactivity. But then when I would like to schedule these reports and send them out in conjunction with another report that wasn't present on my dashboard, chain reports are the answer. So we're going to walk through all of this today. The lab overview is simply the two use cases. As I said, it's a very simple topic today in terms of the actual setup of a chained report. The real consideration and the real meat of it comes with before you've actually chained the reports together and the considerations that need to be had before actually creating this. So I'm gonna check on the questions real quick. I think we look pretty good so far. So I'll go ahead into Exago and we'll take a look at what I was just describing. Okay. So I've got a nice sales dashboard built up here. A map on the bottom, right? And this is one of the best examples of looking to maintain interactivity. I've got a nice report here as well as a line chart up here. This line chart is also built with Express View, so I can flip back and forth here. Additional interactivity I'd like to maintain. So I've got my dashboard. I really like this. But maybe I also have this shipping information report. I'm going to switch to a different report. This is a lengthy tabular report with rows of data. It's not very pretty. There's nothing particularly about this report that would lead me to want it on a dashboard. The purpose of dashboards is to really give a high-level overview of your data in an aesthetically pleasing manner. And that report is not the type of report that generally I would want to put on a dashboard. I want my dashboards to be really flashy and attractive, and maybe I drill into some data, but I don't just have pages of tabular data right in my face, right? Chained reports become the answer here for sending all of these reports in one document to my manager or to my colleagues, whatever the case may be. Today I'm going to send them to myself, but that's only because this is a demonstration. So from a creation perspective, I'm going to start with my plus button. It's going to be under the assemble category, right? So discovery is going to be express view, easy, quick views of your data. Build, advanced reports, crosstab reports, etc. there. And then, of course, assemble. So dashboards and chained reports are aptly grouped together here because they are the best way to show multiple reports. I'll create a new chained report, give it a name. This part is no different from any other wizard. And this one is going to be the geographical information. So let's call it GeoChain. Go over to the Reports tab. Now this is simply asking me to select the list of reports that I would like to include in this chained report, the list of reports that I would like to mush together onto one document. I'm going to go ahead and grab representative sales by region. We're going to get our geographical sales information. We're also going to grab that shipping information. This is that long tabular report that I showed you guys. I've got all three of my reports listed in the order that I would like to see them on the document. You can actually see on under available export types on the right here, it's going to show me what export types are available for each of these reports. So I know when I'm creating my chained report exactly what is available to me. Does anything need to be switched there? What is the export type that I'm likely going to use here given my options? And from here, I'm going to go to my options menu. This is going to come into play with our collation option a little bit more. But essentially, you've got some pretty standard options here. Choose a default export type. Also, you can allow export types for the chained report itself. This is, of course, going to be based on the export types allowed for each report. They have to share one. But maybe for this chained report, I'd only like to be able to run it to PDF or something like that. So I could limit that down here as well. I can choose what I'd like to see if there's no data qualified for a given report that's included in my chain. I can show a placeholder, or I can skip the report entirely. As I said, the collation option will come into play in the next example, but the toggle appears right here. And if I had a common sort across my reports, I would see a list here dictating any common sort. So if there was only one, it would appear as a dropdown, but I would have one option. The last option here is, do I want to see a page break after each report? Now, this essentially is asking me, do I want them to flow together, or do I want to literally break the page after each individual report executes? This is going to be an option that you have with collation as well. Now, just to be very clear here, the page break is only going to apply to PDF and RTF. Excel and CSV are not a paged export type. They're going to essentially be one page overall. So just keep in mind that the page break is not going to apply if you're exporting to Excel. Something to just kind of keep in the back of your head. So if I save and close this chained report, it's fully all set here. This is a report we're going to be using in just a moment. Now I can go into my report tree. I'm going to see right where in this chained reports folder where I saved it, I see my GeoChain. I can go ahead and, as I said, I'm just going to email this to myself. Now, interesting component here, likely there will be a use case, whether you guys have stumbled across one yet or not, where you have a set of reports that you would like to email out on a regular basis, and eventually it'll come time that this will be a change report. You can certainly use the wizard to set a recurrence pattern for change reports as well. This lab is not specifically designed to go into scheduling options, so certainly maybe a subsequent lab will. But for today, I'm just going to be emailing these reports directly. I'll export as PDF. It's going to give me a little pop-up that the report will be emailed to me or to the given input email when completed, and I'm all set to move on with my day. Now the output is going to look like this. This is the report that we just created. I've got my representative sales by region report first. Scrolling down, I see geographical sales information. And scrolling down just a bit further, I see my shipping information report. Now this is the additional report that I wanted to add to that. The 2 reports contained on my dashboard. I did eliminate one of the dashboard reports, so I was able to create a custom set of reports to then email, in this case to myself, but to then email out to my users. So I'm going to pause and see if we have any questions. So just give me a moment. Good question. For Excel, does it span multiple tabs or just one workbook? I believe when I did this, it went to just one workbook, and it was essentially one large page, since it is one report now. Okay, looks like we're doing well. All right, so second example is going to be collation. Now, this is a very interesting one. Personally, I really like this option. I think it lends itself well to a specific use case, right? The whole idea here, and I know I've said this, but I'll restate. One of the big ideas with change reports is that there's certain use cases that work really well, and there's certain use cases that simply change reports are not what you're looking for. This is a beautiful use case for a collated change report. What we're looking at here is sales information pertaining to specific customers of Northwind. So if I open this up, I'm going to see a list of orders with associated information, as well as a little chart at the bottom. This customer addresses is the same idea. It's going to start with, it's grouped by the customer name, which means that I must have a sort on the customer name here. And if I open it up, I see contact name, address, some contact numbers, and their identification, as well as a map. What I'd like to see is the information for this first customer, and I'd like to see their address as well as their sales information at once. I think it would be really helpful for me to see all of that information rather than go through my whole sales report and then go through my entire contact report. So change reports are going to be the answer here. Now, I'm going to walk through how to create it again. It's going to be the same process. We'll call this one customer information. Oh, 2. I have this one. I just don't want to run into trouble with the names here. Again, select my reports. In this case, I wanted customer sales and customer addresses to be linked as one report. Now, difference here in my options menu. I'm going to see all the same options, but I can choose to collate my reports, and I have my company name common sort here. Just as I mentioned, it's going to be the only option, right? We can only collate on the one common sort that we have in this case, but this will allow us to get a little bit of a more intuitive display on output. So let's go ahead and check that out. I'm going to hop over to the output here. I've got my first company here, my first customer, and order information with that associated chart, graph at the bottom, whatever you'd like to call it. Second page is going to show some contact information for that same customer. So now, instead of going through one entire report followed by the other entire report and having to maybe link up, maybe one of those orders doesn't look right, I'd like to give this customer a call, and I need the contact information to do so. Contact information is going to directly follow that report rather than, again, having to bounce between a couple. Okay, I'm going to check for questions once again. As I mentioned, the actual action is not too difficult, but okay, looks like we're doing pretty good here. Everything looks great. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and hop back to my PowerPoint and just go over a couple things that we want to talk about, some housekeeping things. But the real meat of this lab is really, I mean, I think we topped out at 20 minutes. It's not too extensive of a lab. I'm going to go ahead and make this a little bigger. Okay, great. So which topics would you guys like to see in April? We are certainly continuing with the idea of allowing you guys to show us whatever you'd like, or rather choose what we show you on these labs. So we did select the technical topic for 2 weeks from today. The technical topic for April will be up for debate on the next lab. No problems there. But for today, we'd like your input on what you'd like to see for the end user lab next month. Two options are going to be interactive HTML options. I mentioned today, actually, that there's a whole bunch of interactivity on all of our report types within Exago. So this lab will be sort of an all-encompassing view into what all of those interactivity options are, but on dashboards, on advanced reports, on express views, using visualizations, etc. So this will be a really fun one, probably a little bit longer than today, but fun nonetheless. And then the other option here is duplicated data values. What do I do? This one is something that we've actually seen come up a few times recently, and decided a lab might be a really good way to target it for a larger audience. So we've been finding clients of ours that are seeing duplicated data values on their report output, not sure why, and realized that there's not just one way to get to that unintended behavior. There was a couple different things that individually or combined were giving us this incorrect output. So we would like to walk you through why you might be seeing that, what you should check initially if you are having an issue with that, and where to go from there. So let us know on the post-lab survey. We'd love to hear from you as always. And then tune in to the next lab in 2 weeks on the 21st for information regarding security settings as chosen on our last technical lab. So as per what you guys would like to see, we'll be doing that next week, 2 weeks. Okay, so I'll do another quick scan of the questions, make sure that we seem okay there. I think my colleague Alex generally does a phenomenal job of staying on top of the questions, so I usually come back to nothing, but let's just verify. Barring no more questions, thank you all for attending. Once again, I always appreciate the attendance. All of us here at Exago love to see you guys coming back for more. So I appreciate it again, and I look forward to speaking with all of you in 2 weeks.